Welcome to I'm From the Internet, a podcast about somethingawful.com, the goons, and their consequences. I'm Chicago illustrator Winslow Dumaine, and I'm sitting here with Brandstetter and Marcus from the Ain't Shit Show. Ain't Shit Show. And we have been talking about the steroids thread on somethingawful.com. This is part 3, and we are at the part where they're telling themselves that steroid rage is not real, while describing themselves doing extremely roid rage things. So, oh boy, let's get right into it.
Yeah, so part 3 is the steroid thread. You know, afterwards, around a while, other people on Something Awful started to notice, wait, we have a steroid thread? And then people started kind of like reading it to make fun of it and troll it. And this is when Fayad shows up in this saga. And specifically, this is a highlight for this poster here. The name, it's spelled out with the dots between INRI, but I'm just gonna say INRI because we're gonna be saying that a whole bunch. They're a legendary Fayad poster. They are fantastic. And the thing about them is that they weren't just trolling the thread. They were like kind of the lone voice of reason, because they bookmarked it pretty early, and then they'd flame them every now and then like wait for the heat to die down. But they were trolling it, but the stuff they were saying was not untrue. So I have a quote here from them. You're a middle-aged man cheating at amateur sports. You were never competitive, and frankly, you aren't now. How are you going to reconcile with yourself if you cause someone lasting harm with your undeserved strength? Like, that was like a button that they pushed a lot. Was the whole like, you didn't earn this. You were in, and that really drove them crazy. That was a thing they would do. Plus, I think there's a mental health component to using them to cheat at sports, too. You have to lie to your friends and family. It changes who you are inside, and it betrays your loved ones. Sure, some might be open about it, but I wager the majority aren't. I'd call that damaging. Like stuff like that, like just being mean, but pointing out like stuff that they were like what basically we were saying, kind of.
Well, like any of the people who are into like some dark nightmare thing, whether it's like child pornography or like some like super violent fetish that they have, that they go so far in the other direction to try to like compensate for it socially, so that they can like other people will see that they're not they couldn't possibly be the bad guy that they know that they are. So like all of this is constantly weighing on their minds, especially if you're doing this amount of fucking gear all the time.
But the funny thing about INRI is that they actually have room to talk because they're a professional cyclist. That's not a bit or a goof or like a thing they made up to troll the thread. Like they actually talk some interesting inside baseball about like the cycling world and like about performance enhancing drug use, controversies in it. And like they have like the way they talk about, like they know what they're talking about. And that makes it really interesting because as you'll see, these steroid people have problems with cyclists. Yeah. And also, they don't get as much play this episode. We also want to shout out Poverty Goat. They're another Fayad poster who brought it. And I guess, Winslow, if you want to read Poverty Goat here.
Rationalizing that your tiny shriveled balls trying to crawl back inside your torso when you come is good is more the kind of discourse we try to encourage in TCC. And I wish you all luck in this totally not emasculating, normal, manly behavior. Yeah, it is very funny. I mean, this joke has been done for a billion years, but it's just like, the most masculine thing in the world is watching men in like tight little short shorts fighting over a belt. You know, like it's all so performative. And if you were to look at it even slightly from the other direction, you're going to see that it's like, oh, this is what people mean when they're trying to define the difference between sex and gender. You know, like one of them is fully performative.
Yeah, and and also I referenced it did make a document, but that was a thing where like that guy was his balls were coming up in his body like that, like we're mentioning the opposite of them, not to say.
Oh God.
Yeah, and I guess I have some little miscellaneous observations here before we gotta get to this last part here. But the thread is about 240 pages currently. It lasted 19 pages before the first mention of Joe Rogan, which is unsurprising. Just a lot of dudes talking about how they feel small, but also rationalizing how it isn't body dysmorphia. A really funny thing is that they have a rivalry with the nootropics thread. Do either you know what nootropics are?
Yeah, it's brain steroids essentially. It's research.
Yeah, they're like
make you
research,
smarter.
Yeah, like the idea is like performance enhancing drugs for your brain. Like a lot of Silicon Valley people are super into them. So the steroid people are like, oh, these guys are taking drugs to make their brain good. Why don't they take drugs to make their muscles good? Like, and then there's this the nootropics thread is like, oh, these steroid dudes, why aren't they destroying their livers to make themselves do their taxes better or whatever? Like, it's just very funny, this rivalry.
Yeah, it's like they're addicted to Mentats from Fallout. You know, they just like I want to think even bigger. You know,
that's like not far from what it actually is. You're almost hitting it on the head.
Yeah,
exactly.
they just want to make Mentats.
Yeah, it makes me think of the Philomena Kunk episode where she's talking to the one person about like the history of philosophy, and she's like, "Do you think that these big thinkers? Do you think they just think like a lot of tiny little thoughts all at once?" Or do they think that they just push out one really big thought from their head and just get it over with? And the guy was like, that's actually a pretty interesting way of talking about incrementalization versus revolution in terms of schools of thought. And she goes, oh, so that was a pretty big idea. And he goes like, yeah, it actually kind of was. Like asking something so stupid that it kind of opens your mind a little bit.
There's a term they use a lot, bigorexia, which is like their name for basically the body dysmorphia feeling, where it's like feeling like you aren't big enough that's their term for it. So like it comes up enough that it has its own like, you know, terminology and everything there, and so it ties into what we were talking earlier about body image and stuff and everything. There's a thing that happens in this over and over where like a person's dealer gets arrested and all of a sudden everyone at the steroid gym can't get their steroids anymore. And like we mentioned earlier, when you don't taper off, when you stop taking them, your stuff crashes. So it's just like everyone in the gym is just like depressed and like crashing and trying to find stuff. Like it seems like a nightmare to have to go through.
It's so wild.
Yeah.
Yeah. It just makes me think of like, well, a lot of like, especially like the bigorexia stuff, it makes me think like, a couple of weeks ago, I was back home in Omaha, and I was talking to my mom about a billion things, and one of them was just like talking about how do I put it? There's just so much weird shit happening in the world of in right wing online cultures and stuff like that, and one of them being like how like the Groyper Discord has a whole thing for like right wing Nazi cat boys, which are like super effeminate cat boys that are like doing really twinky things and like you know, fucking posing nude or like jacking off on camera and stuff like that, and they're all cat boys and they're all twinks, and like all of these super right-wing guys have convinced themselves that it's not gay, or that it's not like that, none of this is like in any degree contrasting with the rest of their worldview. And it's like really fascinating.
You need to come on my podcast, because we talk about,
buddy. I need to come in general.
Yeah, generally, but the reality of it is that like that's not that surprising. Lots of dudes are rebuilding what is that guy Murakami, or not Murakami, the guy, the Japanese fascist who tried to take over Japan, and he was essentially, he tried to like reinstate the imperial. Yukio Mishima.
Hideo Kojima.
Yeah. Hideo Kojima.
That's what Death Stranding was about.
Mishima, but Mishima, Mishima's whole
Machinima.
Machinima.
Gaming video website Machinima.
That's too.
His whole ethos was that like the only true order is like strength, and the only true strength is men. And like the only way you can express love of order is through loving men. So you're like the through line of like, do you get what I'm saying? Like a lot of that is how that's how these guys arrive to that. It's like, I love the rules so much, and I love the guys who make the rules, and I think I just love guys. You know what I mean? Like,
well, I want to be able to breathe fire, right? And the sun is made of fire. The sun is yellow. Pineapples are yellow. I eat more pineapple. I'll breathe fire.
Yeah, exactly.
So you can see, like, it's completely logical. Like, find a fucking flaw.
But
I mean, like, I know that this has been the thing for a million years. Like and it's it's most egregious, I think, within the right wing, because the right wing is like so inhumanly prim and proper with like their what they say. I mean, not anymore, but for the longest time they were everything needs to be a Norman Rockwell painting, while Dennis Hastert is like one of like God's greatest gifts to the sport of child molestation. You know what I mean? Like just the unbelievable amount of like vile shit coming out of like every youth pastor doing horrible things.
The Michael Jordan of pedophilia is a crazy.
The Michael Jordan of pedophilia, dude. Literally just racking up threes,
Literally
man.
fuck them kids.
Literally fuck them kids. Oh man, this is the clip that we cut out for the fucking YouTube. Oh god,
that one's going to headliner.
That's fun.
Well, I guess like the Nazi Catboy thing. I guess like. There is like, it's funny, furries kind of went through something like that where like it used to be like in the 2000s, there were people where it's like, well, I have a uniform fetish. So here's like a hunky German Shepherd guy in a Nazi uniform. And then like with the rest of the internet, it was like, you can't really do that. And a lot of them were like, you know what, you're right, we're not going to do it anymore. But some of them were like, no, I have to draw the Nazis. And you telling me not to is going to make me be a Nazi for real now, just to spite you. And it's like, I think that was in you the whole time, buddy. You just, you know, it's.
Yeah. It makes me think again of that Low-Tex quote of like, every time I ban a fake Nazi, it turns out he was a real Nazi the whole time, you know?
Yeah.
Like, oh, you just didn't have the fucking steel to actually say that to actually say all the Nazi shit until somebody pushes back, and then suddenly you're super Nazi.
That's one of those things that like, I was talking about this recently, but like in the 80s, Nazi iconography, like in the late 70s, early 80s, and kind of a little bit into the 90s, Nazi iconography stopped being associated with the Nazis and started being associated with like being so punks. So punk that you're against all of that stuff. And like I'm so against the rules, I'm gonna use this symbol that you know what I'm saying? And like the reality of it is like those guys loved rules. They're probably one of the only guys that loved rules more than anybody. You know what I'm saying? Like,
that's why it's so funny to me to like see people on the left, especially trying to like, well, I mean, on the left, basically exclusively trying to square their like of punk aesthetics and punk culture and all of that, with also needing to never, ever, ever offend anyone or do anything untowards anyone at any time. And it's like, all of your favorite bands, why do you think they're wearing Doc Martens? Mm-hmm. Why do you think that they're fucking, they shave their heads? Why do you think that like if it's so funny that like, if someone, I mean, like, look, I'm not trying to be like Seinfeld here complaining about cancel culture, but it is very funny to me, like, how up in arms people get over, like, microaggressions and things like that, and, like, being hurt or offended or a toxic person or, like, toxic masculinity or any of these things. And then they're also wearing a shirt with, like, that says, like, fuck you, you fucking fuck, with two middle fingers on the back. And if some, like, little old lady in the grocery store sees that and is just like, what the hell? And, like, is completely offended, we have to throw her being offended completely away, because I have to be able to wear my cool punk shirt. You know what I mean? Like, obviously I'm not complaining about cancel culture. Like, that's so silly, but it is very funny to me when you build your entire personality around fuck you, and then somebody else is like, well, but why me?
I like,
you know, like,
I like the idea. I think I really do enjoy the right wing conservative guys who are like, the real punk is following the rules. Like, I really do love those guys. Those guys got it in such a ridiculous way. They figured something out, but in a bad way.
Yeah. It's great to know that we are all stupid.
Yeah, it is.
The internet makes you stupid, and here we fucking are, you know? So we got new friend from school who's been permabanned.
Marcos, would you like to read this one?
Yeah. I have to thank GNC bullshit for getting me into real AAS for what it's worth. Almost exactly 10 years ago, this corporal saw me, PFC at the time, taking 6 OXO with my way and came up to me like, if you're going to spend money in bullshit, might as well do the real thing. A few days later, I trade him $300 for 4 vials of Mexican Deca, and that was my first and second dumbest cycle. Put on 45 pounds in under 3 months, though. Jesus fucking Christ, dude.
No, officer, I did not buy drugs, okay? I traded him 3 commemorative $100 bills for his authentic replica Mexican Deca.
My dad used to be a drug dealer growing up, and when I remember like as a kid asking him about it, and he would be like, we're bartering. It's different. It's a bartering thing. I'm a barterer. I trade goods and services. It's the same mindset.
Yeah. And just like also this
dude's rough.
This isn't even the only time in the thread that someone mentions like being in the military and getting steroids from like their superior officers. Like people talk about like working out at a gym and all the cops being on steroids. I mean, like as institutionally, like it totally makes sense because you were talking about like the strength and everything. But man, that's just wild. Like, all these people are on steroids. Like, and I see the idea of like someone in power giving you that.
I know some inside baseball on this, by the way. So my brother is a firefighter, right? And the steroid problem in the firefighting department, and like in firefighting, like, because he fights wildland fires, is insane. Mm-hmm. All of these guys are fucking roided out of their minds. And the reason for the way that they justify why they're like on roids is because they're like, well, the job will tear our bodies apart if we don't do this, because this helps us.
I do it for recovery.
Yeah, I do this for recovery so that I can stay on the job. Yeah, and I'm like, you guys are destroying your livers to jump in a fire that may kill you. Do you know what I'm saying? Like it doesn't make any sense, dude. Like you guys are.
It's kind of the same thing that like everyone knows that like cocaine is a huge thing in Hollywood and all that, but like in the modicum of show business experience that I've had, it is like, oh wow, I don't know a person who's other than me who's never done coke, and it's like everywhere. Mm-hmm. Like I'll be at like the most bullshit comedy festival, and they'll be like, just coke, and it's like, really? Like we're not even doing any shows. Like what are we like? Why are y'all doing such fucking hard drugs? Mm-hmm. And also like, chastising people for oh, you didn't recycle your beer can while you're doing fucking cocaine that was made from like the finger bones of children in Colombia. It's like, come on.
I got kicked out of a party one time because someone said that I was an asshole because I had like double parked or something. Like, oh, you double parked, you asshole. Mm-hmm. I'm like, dude, you got cocaine for like someone had to sneak that up their ass and then get paid nothing and then go into sex slavery to get that to you, dude. But I'm the dickhead because I double parked. All right, man. And then
it's completely
right.
So May 2017 is when the rest of the forum becomes aware that there's a steroid thread and start kind of making fun of them in the like what's going on in something awful kind of chat thread. And the regulars do not take the mockery well. So the OP C2C. I would say to any thread lurkers that side effects are typically preventable and otherwise treatable if they do manifest. While it obviously is apparent that outliers exist, prevention due to best practices, blood work, compound measuring and timing, etc., tends to be all an individual needs to combat unwanted results.
Yeah.
All that shit you saw? No, you didn't.
Yeah, perfectly safe.
Yeah.
The shit that I cooked up on my fucking Bunsen burner at home is perfectly fucking safe. Yeah, somehow I don't think a something awful poster whose whole idea of life is shit posting and lifting heaps as much as possible is going to have enough like knowledge to figure out the exact chemistry to create the drug without getting like chunks of floating bullshit in there.
Yeah, and also like blood testing is expensive, so a lot of them like ration it out. They only get them done like a couple times a year because like they have to use anonymous online ones, so their insurance and their doctors don't find out about the results, and that costs a lot more. Like one of the things that they swap discount codes for online blood work places. Like it's a whole bit of their culture there.
Botox implants and injections are okay. So is birth control and antidepressants. The second you take something, if done correctly, that can increase your quality of life, oh noes, spare baby Jesus. When playing it cool doesn't work, CTC.
That's my notes there.
Yeah.
Yeah, just that idea, like, birth control and antidepressants are fine. As someone who has been on antidepressants before and is trying to get back on them, that is so frustrating.
I don't think that these are comparable.
Yeah, there's a few differences there. Yeah.
Oh, so suddenly you can take aspirin when you get a headache, but when I take this stuff that was made for cattle so that they can be raised in cages, and I take 6 times the normal dose that I should be taking, suddenly I'm the weird guy, as like he's weeping blood and pus out from his fucking eyes. His eyes, which only perceive the color yellow. Yeah.
He's turning.
Yeah, so he just looks like any Western movie set in Mexico. He's just got like the haze.
So
wolf eyes are totally natural.
Yeah. So playing it cool doesn't work. So C2C tries rolling with the punches here. Also, I can't impress upon y'all enough the severe need to discontinue drawing attention to the random acts of violence brought on by your roid rage. From this point forward, you are no longer allowed to talk about punching your parents, kicking your dog, spousal abuse, or punching yourself. If anyone continues to post in this manner, I will be forced to ask the mods for permission to locate you and punch you in the face. And the thing about this is, like, these are all supposed to be ridiculous hypotheticals, but one of them they listed there, spousal abuse.
I am recording this from the Lotax Memorial podcasting chamber, so if we want to get into spousal abuse, Something Awful is the place to do it.
It's the place to be, baby. Yeah, so a couple years after this blow up in 2019, I'm sorry to do you like this, Marcos, but Moist Von Lipwig gets permabanned. Punishment reason, shitty dude IRL. And you want to guess what shitty dude behavior he got permabanned for? It was spousal abuse.
Using that spouse.
Like the kind with multiple police reports. Like this was a thing where this isn't publicly available. Like people sent it to the mods and they confirmed it. The reason I got permabanned is because he was a serial spouse abuser in the steroid thread while telling people that roid waivers wasn't real.
Boy, no thanks.
So that kind of threw gasoline on the fire there, and then Inri shows up here. Sounds to me like absolutely zero of you need this trenbolone bullshit in your life. How close to being strong or good looking can you actually be that you need that shit to get any further? You've got one guy on this page, permabanned for beating up his wife a bunch IRL, parentheses allegedly, who was a trend user, another who's giving you all his steroids because he went psychotic from taking it, and I've seen similar horror stories on the Reddit subforum. Do what you like, but you sound like someone who just dropped a kilo of heroin on the table in front of you and it made your Christmas come early.
Yeah, they are addicts of both the drug and of masculinity as a whole,
Yeah, and I think about the pushback as well is they go the Something Awful thing is when someone makes fun of you, you assume it's because they're the thing you hate. So in this one, it's oh, you're making fun of us. It's just because you're fat, and then so that's when it comes out that he's a cyclist who competes, and they
right.
So their thing is oh yeah, we'll post pictures, and Inri goes. I'd rather swallow live bees than post personal info on this hellhole of a website, especially after all the shit I've said on it. A few people I and other people in this thread like Nearbo and Willie D used to posting with in the MMA thread, like Maniac and Duncan, were already chased off because of stuff like that. That's the thing as well as other posters, they got chased out of here because they would post their pictures and then these guys would just dunk on them for not being big enough.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. So why is it?
I mean, it's just every dude yelling "cuck" at you, cuck, 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 and they just find an insult and scream it at you. It's funny how many arguments I've gotten in on the internet, and my response could basically just be oh, how perfect is it that I just happen to be every single thing that you hate? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you and I are disagreeing about this movie, I also love Trump and hate dogs and all of this,
Just added trend to my fall cycle plan solely because of INRI, the frail boy who can't ride his bike fast enough nor post an anonymous picture of his physique because he knows how easy it'd be to mock. Must suck to be mediocre at a sport no one cares about and then translate all that bitterness onto people who are only competing with themselves. You don't belong here. You've offered literally nothing to this thread we don't already know.
It's just like I've read a trillion comments like that from just internet tough guys who like that. You could just like sub out a bunch of words for that and make that into a copy pasta for so many different fucking internet tough guys who are just like, I'm gonna do the thing that you don't want to do because you don't want me to do it, and you're a frail little bitch, and you won't even post your body because you know we would like. It's all of these things attempting to be like mind games to like fuck with your head, you know. But it's really just it's just dickheads.
It's the gun safety thing of like, I'm gonna shoot myself in the dick, and then you'll really be owned. Right,
Yeah,
idiot,
exactly.
idiot. Like that's it.
Yeah, the idea of I am buying and using an illegal cattle steroid specifically despite internet posts. Like as a person who has done a lot of things despite internet posters, even I'm like, wow, that's a bit like, just doing the Seinfeld gif with that.
It's like Gavin McInnes fucking himself in the ass with a dildo on camera to own the libs, and it's just like
he's right though. I was owned. I think you should do it more often. I think
yeah, it's just fucking fascinating that like when you're fighting with an enemy that doesn't exist, or when you've convinced yourself that your enemy is like this mysterious thing. Like, if a bunch of right-wing guys could get together and be like, oh, the libs hate stew. They hate stew and soup, so I'm going to eat soup every day to own the libs. And then what happens is you just have a bunch of Republicans eating soup, and libs are just like, what? And they're like, yeah, you're so owned. You're so owned because I'm eating all this soup. And it's like, but I don't know why you're doing this. I don't give a fuck if you take Tren or if you do any of this shit, but like, you're not owning me. You are having a temper tantrum, you know?
It's don't tell, like when you write my eulogy, don't let anyone know I was owned. Right?
I'm not owned. I'm not owned.
Yeah. When you read my eulogy, don't bring up the fact that I was owned. Right?
And Sludge Tank, who you might remember is the guy who got a big stash of steroids from someone who was hospitalized for having a psychotic break from said steroids. They really don't handle it well when Inri doesn't take the bait. And this is why I took Sludge Tank here. I saw a cyclist up the mountain at a coffee shop, and he looked so fucked. His body was all hunched and emaciated, except for his legs, which were so muscly, but in a fucked-looking way. He looked really tight and uncomfortable. Is that normal / desired in cyclists? Their low backs must be fucked.
Yeah. This, like, I made up this thing that would make someone else who is near you seem bad. Which it's just very funny of, like, I can't say anything about you, so I've created this fictional thing in my head where somebody else looked bad and they also do your thing, so you are that. Like, it's like the stupid. This is all like you could find a corollary to the John Boy's The Dumbest Boy in the World video about like all of the musclehead guys screaming at each other over how many days in a week there are. Because they're like, I take it every other day. That means I take it 4 days a week. And it's like you just watch the video. You know what I'm talking about.
Yes,
but, yeah.
All-timer. It was very hard for me not to do that as the bonus episode. I was like, come on. Everyone knows that one. Yeah. And then Inri responds, I think it's funny how obsessed with being physically bigger than the other guy you people are. Like, it's going to win you an internet argument every time you try to insult someone for having a body that doesn't fit yours. It just makes you look like a huge self-conscious pussy. But then I guess that's why you hopped on this shit in the first place, right? Like,
yeah.
Here, when's it?
I mean, it's all true, man.
Yeah, if you could read Dennis McLaren here.
Why don't you spare this thread your drivel and actually contribute something like all the other great posters in here? There's literally no one else in this thread with so little knowledge of actual steroid use and application through personal experience than you. Why don't you let your ego take a backseat until you actually have something to contribute to the steroid education and usage like everyone else in here.
To which Inri responds, they can make a drug that lets you tan faster, but they still haven't invented one that makes your skin thicker, apparently. Which is so fucking good. Like,
dang, got his ass.
That's the entire reason I included the Melanotan setup 4 hours ago.
Yeah, got his
That's
ass.
awesome.
Yeah, and there was an interesting wrinkle in that thread that there were occasionally people who were prescribed testosterone legitimately due to hypogonadism or due to being trans would come in the thread for advice on dealing with the side effects or like how to pin or inject correctly. And so with the steroid goons, when this trolling gets underway, one of the ways they start defending it is they go, well, I got mine from a men's longevity clinic in Florida, so it's real medicine prescribed by a real doctor. And one of those posters shoots that down. This is Sub Rosa here. Would one of you like to read that?
Oh, sure, yeah. So I'm a person with primary hypogonadism from a childhood traumatic injury to my testicles. And really, I agree with INRI or INRI on what he was saying here. My TRT is from an endocrinologist who is an associate professor of endocrinology at a major university. The highest my TRT dose has ever gone was 140 milligrams a week, and it's currently at 120 milligrams a week. It's clear from the online research I've done on TRT, the majority of it comes from clinics that are little more than pill mills. Sure, they will ask you to do regular bloods and interpret them for you, but they will never show concern for your free T being over 12 like my doctor does. And it generally seems no matter your state, when you present yourself to these places as a patient, they will find a way to prescribe it to you because they want your business. There may be an argument that the negative side effects from going out the top of the therapeutic window are mitigatable. My own doc actually supplies me with 1 ml a week and has basically made it clear that some of his patients abuse androgens and he accepts it and does his best to mitigate any downsides to their use. That said, a dose of 350 milligrams a week can't really be defended as a therapeutic dose. While there certainly is something to be said for treat the patient, not the number, it's absolutely naive to suggest someone prescribed that amount could be being properly treated rather than self-prescribing or going to a less than reputable clinic.
All perfectly reasonable.
That was a really interesting thing I learned about because a lot of these guys, the way that they get their steroids legitimately, quotes, is like there are these, they call them like longevity clinics or men's health clinics, and most of them are based in Florida because of like the business laws and stuff. But yeah, it's like a thing you can do online or like you do it in person. The people who run it are guys that are on steroids, and yeah, it's just kind of like it's like you go there and a doctor will prescribe it for you, but they're in the same mindset as these guys, where it's like with the understanding you're using this to get huge, and like the medical advice that they're giving is based on that. It's just it's way too big for me to cover this, but it seems like a fascinating world. Like I'm hoping someone's done some reporting on it. It seems like there's a lot there.
It's just so hard to talk about all of this because there are, you could talk about, you could make a documentary about steroid abuse and testosterone abuse and all of that, and people would be all the way right along with you. But the minute that you mention that trans people or like hormone replacement therapy or anything like that, they just go like full, like ultra mecha Hitler to the other side of whatever it is. It's like no one should ever have hormones ever. If it makes anyone trans ever, no one should ever have hormones. It's like, it's the same thing with like abortion, where like there are so many cases where like the abortion laws are now just like technically you can't even sneeze while pregnant, or you'll be like arrested for traumatizing an unborn patriot or something like that. It's like it's completely the laws are no longer in any part of it in touch with reality.
That was one of the things about this too, is it's a lot harder for people that are transitioning to men, like trying to do your steroids, like gray market because of legal problems. It's a lot harder for FTM trans people because testosterone is used for cheating in sports. So there's a lot more demand for it. And there's a lot more like investigation and cracking down on it and everything. So it's harder to get testosterone than it is to get like estrogen drugs because of this. So that's like a really frustrating part of it too, is like, yeah, like when we were talking about this gray market and the business for that, just
imagine being red pilled on like, the world is actually built for women, and one of the reasons that you cite is the fact that it's easier to transition as a woman because it's easier to get estrogen than it is. Like, men are punished because they can't get testosterone because of all this other shit.
Legalized testosterone.
I love the idea of like someone who's red pilled but still super like trans accepting.
Our fans are like that. You have to understand, the Ain't Shit Show. There's guys like that in our who are like,
that's fucking fascinating, dude.
Yeah,
we got homies like that in our
trans woman supremacist. Yeah.
That's not even
I know a couple.
Yeah.
I know a couple that are pretty extreme, but yeah, I think that just comes with being online too much, and also just it's something happens when you go through gender transition where like you're in such a huge state of change in your life that like you're gonna pick up a few weird things along the way that you might not find the exact match in your previous self. Mm-hmm. And for some of it's just like you turn onto like an online extremist in one way or another, or you just post videos of rotating sandwiches.
Yeah,
it could be anything.
I had a guy who DM'd me for months, and he was like a woke racist is the only thing I can explain to you. Like, he was wildly racist. His name was Based Racist N-word spelled out. And he DM'd me every day, and he became like a little side character on our podcast because he was just fascinatingly woke despite being wildly racist. So it takes all kinds, dude. It takes all kinds, man.
I have so many jokes in my head of what I could add to that. Not going to say anything.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah, you
not going to say anything because there's nothing that I can say in the perspective of the woke racist that wouldn't get me immediately crucified.
So after all that, this is the point where Sludge Tanks absolutely loses it. I have their big post here. I've always fucking hated cyclists. I even started a Facebook group called I Fucking Hate Cyclists back in 2008 or so and got interviewed in a Sydney newspaper because it was such a hot issue here. Yeah, Sludge Tank is Australian, by the way. I'm not doing the accent. My level of hatred for you lycra-wearing smug cocksuckers has been static. I deal with you assholes every day on the road, but you don't see me going into the cycling thread, shitting it up with why I think cycling and cyclists are fucked and shall be bashed into the fucking bitumen. Seeing as you seem to enjoy coming here and winding everyone up, then I'll just continue saying how much I loathe the cockroaches of the road and how I lust for their violent deaths. BRB, going to watch videos of cyclists being hit by trucks. User was put on probation for this post. User was permabanned for this post.
Jesus Christ.
But the thing is, they got permabanned in 2022. This post is in 2019, so they got 3 more years in the steroids thread before someone finally pulled the trigger there.
So they go back to the original post and ban them for that? They don't just ban them for their most recent offense?
In this case, it was kind of like a lifetime achievement. Basically it was like, you should have been permabanned for this. And like one of the things about the Crackhead Clubhouse is it does have kind of an adversarial relationship with the rest of the forums because everyone else does just kind of make fun of them. So things like the mods there don't like to punish people for stuff that like the outside forums bring some, even if it's like them actually breaking the rules. So it's like, yeah, Sludge Tank was freaking out or whatever, but it was like we're not going to permaban for it. And then you'll see how it shakes out. So this is going to kind of be the Sludge Tank show for a little bit because he really starts going off the rails after this. Yeah, same. I find it sometimes rude and annoying how many people constantly talk about my size. No one tries to fight me anymore, but yeah, I'm with you on that. I genuinely have other hobbies other than being huge. I called out this feminist on it once who used to carry on about men objectifying women, and I said, well, you are forever calling me muscles and whatnot and giving unsolicited comments on my physical appearance. That's the same thing, no?
Okay. Worst dude you know just made a good point. You shouldn't objectify someone for their fucking body. I don't care if you're big or small. I mean, like, if I go up to somebody and say, hey, they're tits, that's gross. If somebody comes up to me and says, hey, they're muscles, that's also gross. Like, don't talk to me like that, you know?
Oh, yeah. Exactly.
But yeah, everything else in that post was insane. I just have to stand for the boy.
Agreed. Thank you. As stated before, my liver has been abused most of my life from either alcohol or ketamine abuse.
My man is training liver day every day. He never takes liver day off.
Yeah, yeah. This is the end of a long train here.
Yeah.
His liver just looks like a black tortilla. His liver looks like a black Dorito, just like the little triangle of dark. Yeah.
And you remember from his intro, he was the one who bragged about having a, quote, rapist sex drive, but not having a girlfriend. Well, in 2020, he gets a girlfriend. I fucking love the enraged boner I get off of a couple Viagra, and coupled with the rapist sex drive from the trend, my GF and I have been having the most insane, depraved sex I've had in my life, and she's becoming insatiable for it. Goddamn, my dudes, steroids fucking rule. I never thought I'd be called a superhuman fuck machine and was resigned to being average in the bedroom my whole life, but here we are. I'm talking anal fisting, marathon, against the wall, 4 hours of anal bondage sessions, scaled up from vanilla AF missionary with the lights off. Trend saved my sex life. I don't give a fuck if I die from liver disease tomorrow. At least I finally unleashed my inner sex demons on a willing participant. User was put on probation for this pose.
Jesus Christ.
Oh, God. There's so much to hate about all of that. Do what you want with your own sex. That's great. But, like, oh, boy. I think that this thread is really convincing me of the theory that, like, pornography is like a reptilian psyop to get men to destroy themselves. Because, like, oh yeah, bud, if you compare your sex life to 43-minute clip of nothing but raw fucking with like a dude with the most insane cock you've ever seen, you're gonna feel real fucking bad. You're gonna feel terrible. Of course you are. And so just seeing dudes that are like that not fisting his girlfriend's ass and then fucking her against the wall for 4 hours, and then not doing that is being emasculated and not having enough sex and not doing it hardcore enough. Like it's just a spiral of radicalization. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I gotta give him credit. He didn't lie about his steroid use, at least. I have another quote here. My GF asked me very early on, and I straight up said yes and explained my reasons. I've had lots of very bad experiences with lying to GFs in the past about drug use, and it never ends well. Honesty is the best policy. So at least he is learning eventually.
Honesty is the best policy. I'm hearing all of this in the Nathan Explosion voice, I love being motivated.
They shrink your gonads. They turn your eyes yellow.
Yeah. God.
Yeah. Worst case scenario, just come back with, I won't be lectured by people who recreationally drink or smoke. I'm not Rich Piana. I'm not hurting anyone but myself, and I feel amazing. Eat a dick, cucks. Yeah.
Rich Piana is a guy who fucking took enough steroids. He like cooked his entire shit, taking steroids, huge, massive guy. But his thing was like he took insane amounts of steroids and then would get mad at other people for taking steroids, which doesn't make any sense. He would be like, why would you do this to yourself? And then just fucking blast his shit away. Right? Like
rock,
when he died, I think one of the sadder things it's a sad story. It's not a funny story, but I laugh at it because it's the only thing I could do to keep from crying. But like the homie, when he passed away, like one of his last test results, he had the testosterone of like I think like a 4-year-old girl or something like that, like the same levels like naturally occurring because he had been on steroids for over 30 years, I think. And not like over 30 years, like he cycled, like he was blasting that shit every day for over 30 years. Like that is it's almost like an inhuman feat. You know what I'm saying? Like it's almost worthy of respect.
Yeah. It's amazing he lasted that long.
Yeah. It's worthy of respect that he did what he did for as long as he did. But Rich Piana, like, is a legendary steroid abuser. And he also didn't look human. He's the closest anyone's ever looked to like a Gears of War character. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. That's the closest anyone's ever gotten to it. And he was just crazy, huge guy.
No, nothing in me wants to do any of this. I've always thought, like, what if I took steroids once and then worked out, and like, would that do anything at all? Just one steroid, please. But it's just
more sludge tank here. This is probably a really weird question, but is it possible the trend I'm taking could be making my girlfriend sick if I'm coming in her?
The answer, I know the answer to that, and the answer is yes, it can. It does, because it crosses your blood-brain barrier, and it's the steroids are part of your they're like become part of your whole body. So including the like your piss and shit could also get people sick from doing. You can potentially give them a dose of tren if it's high enough, which is crazy to think about.
Yeah, so tren at a certain level it becomes contagious.
Yeah, you could. So tren sweats can. There's stories of people who are dating other people who have tren sweats, and they wake up with horrific rashes, and the rashes are from their partners. The sweat, like carrying trace amounts of tren and like literally getting into their skin and causing these like ridiculously bad like rashes that need to be like specially treated. So like it turns your body into a weapon. It like literally it's not. Tren is the worst ones. It's crazy.
You turn into that tree in Florida that poisons you if you're near it. You know, like if you just stand next to the tree, it fucking poisons you. This whole time I'm thinking about tren sweats like that Gatorade commercial where you drink Gatorade and then you sweat Gatorade. Have you seen that? You remember that one from the 90s?
Yeah.
Where like you have like orange perspiration droplets on your forehead and shit.
Tren is like particularly horrific, dude. Like it's contagious essentially, which is crazy to think about.
It's more of this.
This keeps going.
No, this is the very end here of their story release. Yeah. So, speak for yourself. Tren horny is fun as fuck horny. You just got to be mindful because you'll get yourself in trouble. I kept pissing off my GF by overtly propositioning threesomes with random chicks all the time and just being a general pervert. If you don't care about what people think about you, then it's a barrel of laughs. You don't think what people care about? Why are you taking steroids? I think if I didn't have stage 5 autism, I might have been able to pull it off. Random cutie was key, but GF was sad about it for a while. Understandably, of course. Women, big all emotional.
What's funny about this guy is that there are a few little lines in here where he's just like, understandably. Where like he's like, especially the line where he's talking about like, well, lying was a problem that I had, and I didn't like it. It made me feel bad, and like. It like the bits of empathy that shine through this one is very funny.
Yeah, and this is a very there's so much of this posting in there, and this like I mentioned earlier, TCC has this us versus them attitude, so they kind of kept letting him slide. But luckily, Sludge Take did not limit being a violent creep to just the steroid thread. There's a cop thread in GBS, and you don't got to hand it to the police, obviously. But do you know where any of them live? You should go and murder their families. User was put on probation for this post. Yeah. I hope that fat pig gets his fucking head cut off and shoved up his dead kid's ass. Jesus. User was banned for this post. 3 years of this, and then finally, Azathoth gives him a permaban, August 22nd, 2022. You have multiple threads that display violent, disturbing, or unhinged behavior and should have been permabanned for any one of these at the time they were posted. So that's why they went back to that one. That's sort of like a lifetime achievement award. Like just... Oh, God. One of the most unpleasant people I've covered on the show so far.
Yeah, no, this one's pretty bad. Yeah. Definitely the most depraved person we've covered. And the thing is that this podcast isn't about covering depraved people. That's not the point of the podcast. It's about covering like nerds and losers from the internet and something awful and and all sorts of silly things. But we keep stumbling into freaks.
This is about where it ends. Like I mentioned, the steroid thread is still open and active on Something Awful to this day. Like while I was writing the document, I read the entire thread, all 230 something pages, and it keeps getting new posts while I'm writing this. So people are still going in there and getting advice. Like, yes, that's because the juice was like they slammed the brakes on that once it became aware how bad it was. This one, it's just still going.
If it killed them a little quicker, then it would be like a different story because then you'd have like a pretty rapid body count. Like the Phenazepam one, where like it's way more of like an ongoing nightmare. But yeah, this is just goddamn wild.
Yeah, because this one doesn't have a body count like the last one, like directly, but like these people are like they're ruining their lives before it ends. Like this is like so tragic.
What else do we have in here?
That's where we end here. Just I think Sludge Tank Flaming Out is just kind of a great encapsulation of what goes on over there. Just
do you have any did you ever find any pics of these guys? Were they posting progress pics?
Some of them did when they started getting trolled. A lot of them went back and deleted them. I did find some of them, but that was part of the reason why I didn't include them in here. Was they don't look like they look like muscular guys that go to the gym a lot, but they don't look like ridiculously muscular. So they look very buff. I could tell they just weren't interesting. They just looked like buff dudes. And some of them weren't even that buff. Was the weirdest part of it was. All these people are taking all these drugs and talking about messing up their lives. And I see pictures of them, and I'm like, I wouldn't even guess you were on steroids. You just look like a guy, a fit guy, but
just like a bigger than normal dude.
I used to know people who would take stupid amounts of steroids just to look normal, and then I would be like, why did you you've done this for no reason? You know what I'm saying? A lot of guys like to talk about there's a lot of stuff. Bodybuilding is a lens. It's incelery, right? Being an incel is a lens. I think that's what.
I thought you said it's in.
No.
Like you go down to the grocery store, and it's like, oh man, why do you think it crunches so hard? It crunches hard because it's a fucking man.
It's so in the fiefdom of incels, or the lens of incels, incelery is kind of what I've called it, right? But there's it's a lens, it's a worldview, right? And the worldview is that you are born imperfect, that you're not good enough, and that if you take certain steps, you can overcome that goodness. But they take extreme, or not good. They overcome those shortcomings, but they take an extreme, you need to do these things. And the reality of it is that, if you feel like you're a shitty dude, or you feel like you don't, genetically you're not gifted in a way that you would like to be gifted, the best way forward is to not think about that, is to focus on the good things in your life. You know what I'm saying? And that's how you move forward. Yeah. The problem is that that's not very fun if you want to fall down a rabbit hole and really try and perfect something about yourself. And so these guys, bodybuilders, not all bodybuilders, but the bodybuilders who would go to the extremes to do this stuff and who don't particularly look good while they're doing this, their results don't matter. It's the process that matters. Much like in incels, if an incel started getting pussy or dick or whatever it is that they wanted, it wouldn't change the process of what they really felt like they weren't good enough. And then it would start to rot on the inside with well, look at all the things that I had to do. And for other people who don't have to do these things, right? So there's something fundamentally wrong with me. Do you get what I'm saying? So it's a lens, it's a worldview. It's not something that exactly it's fixable. It is fixable, but not the way that they're approaching it, right? And not the way that society approaches it, which is these guys need to be, permabanned from everything, right? And stop.
And I think there's more to it than just don't think about your quote unquote flaws, but it's the more Buddhist way of going about it is abnegate the entire concept of
flaw. Yeah.
Flawedness.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where it's just just be what you are and transcend the flaw rather than ignore or fix. You know what I mean? Because ignoring it, there are definitely some people who are yeah, I've got crooked teeth, but I have nice eyes, and so I am maybe a little self-conscious about my teeth, but I just move on. And it's that's fine. If that works for you, I can't tell you not to. But when it comes to the you just have to move on in a certain way where you're moving on entirely from whether or not you even have any issue with your teeth at all. You move on from the self-consciousness.
The thing about the steroid guys, the steroid community, the fitness community in general is that like I said, there's a lot of outside pressure here. One of them is that it is a business model to get fit and then to sell supplements that didn't help you get fit, right? But like it's to sell it to people who believe that they will help you, that that will make them more like you. In a business, it makes more sense, like financially, to take the shortest route to getting fit, to continue. You know what I'm saying? So like for some of these guys, this is a full-on business decision where they're like, yeah, I'm gonna take the shortcut. I'm gonna get on trend, get super fucking buff, and then I'll cycle off of it. And while I'm on it, I'm going to sell my business. Do you know what I'm saying? And like I'm going to sell this. The business is my body. The business is my appearance. And then those people, they almost make sense. You know what I'm saying? They're approaching this from a level that makes sense. And it's kind of hard to dissuade them from it. It's not a good decision, but it's a decision that they're making with some kind of like logistical idea, right? Like there's a logic there that can be followed. Whereas these guys in the Crackhead Clubhouse are more or less doing this because it is bad for you. And that's something that I don't think most people can fathom or understand. And that's because I don't think most people deal with the same like incel worldview lens that.
Well, like to tie it back to like the Calvin Johnson Jr. comment where he's doing it because fuck you. He's doing it because you said not to. It's the same thing that you get with modern conservatives today, where they're just like they're intentionally fucking their whole body up, their life up. They're doing really stupid, unsafe things because fuck you. And not to bring up pissed jeans again, but they have a song on their new record called "Seatbelt Alarm Silencer." And it's a thing that you can buy to plug into your seatbelt clip so it stops beeping at you, right? And it's just like, and then those dudes get into a crash and they smash their whole fucking body up. And instead of going like, oh, hey, that thing that we told you would keep you safe, like you didn't do it and now you got hurt, they're just going to go, no, I would actually be even worse if I had a seatbelt on. This guy from the bar that I go to, and he's missing all his features on his face. He said that that the seatbelt actually is even worse, and it was created by George Soros. And like they have to keep doubling down and tripling down because their whole identity is built around fuck you.
Well,
they have nothing else other than
the Ain't Shit Show fights nonsense with more nonsense. You know what I'm saying? Like my personal, that's how we do it. We see nonsense in the world. We see people not making any sense, and then we're like, we can outdo that. That's that's kid play. We're more schizo
like
than
the XKCD comic, I think it was, where it's just like you can fight a conspiracy theory by going like 2 or 3 steps beyond theirs, where they're like, oh, that the pyramids were built by aliens. And it's like, you believe that the pyramids are actually pointy? Yeah. They're actually round, but your mind perceives them to be you just go further and they're like, that's actually maybe all of them.
So that's the thing about like steroid, these guys in the steroid abuse things. Like I was saying, I know this is going to sound crazy, especially after all, I do think that steroid use should be legalized and made in a way that's more available and safer for people, because if you did that, it would discourage guys like this from shooting 600 milligrams of tren into their fucking ass on a daily basis. Do you get what I'm saying? Because then they wouldn't be cool for it anymore. Like, you're just doing steroids wrong, like an idiot.
I think they need to make steroids opaque, but like pink and sparkly, like a cream based steroid that comes in like a nice soft little bottle.
Yeah. You gotta get it hard,
and then when you it comes in like a little like a pastry bag, and that when you have to squirt it out, and it goes, and like then you have to rub it on the lobes of your ears. It has to be this whole humiliation process to guys, make people
you don't understand. Yeah. Guys will learn a way to make that masculine. You know masculine. That's the beautiful thing about this. Is something that is both ugly and beautiful about masculinity, is that it's so performative that even the performance, like if you think about it, like hip hop is like suffering from it a lot, because like all hip hop beef is just two dudes writing mad poems at each other, which is possibly one of the gayest things.
It's like so mad that you wrote a poem.
It's possibly one of the just. It's very cringy. And
I'm going to compare thee to a summer's day, you fucking dick.
Asshole. Yeah, and exactly. And like, so, but like in our society, men have made that like, no, diss tracks are good. And like, you know what I'm saying? Like they're masculine. Like, it's a manly thing to do.
Where's my quill?
Exactly. You know what I'm saying?
Somebody pissed me off. Where's my parchment?
So like, you can't make anything. If you made it pink and sparkly, and you had to apply it to your nips and your fucking earlobes, and you know what I'm saying, and wear a dress while you did it, then you don't think that there would be guys being like, brother, you got soft hands. You've never applied it at 4 a.m. and on a Wednesday. You know what I'm saying? Like there's always going to be a way to make
it. To make it even more like poster file, but it makes me think of some of the Gamergate stuff where it's just like, you picked a fight with gamers. You have the things that we do with our free time would be torture for other people. We throw ourselves at Nex Ramus 20 mans, and it takes us weeks, and we have to chew through all of his guards, and you're describing playing a video game with your friends. What you're doing is describing playing a video game with your friends, but you need to be a man. And we were talking about this in one of the more recent episodes about how like every single group of men on the planet has bro assholes. There's like, it's so funny to me because like I grew up in like the goth scene and the artsy fartsy scene and the metal scene, and I was like a fucking Manson fan going to Manson shows, and there's still dudes wearing like fucking women's clothing with their little eyeliner on and shit like that, but they'll still like beat your ass if you fucking look at them sideways. You know what I mean? It's like, it's so funny how being a psychotic, controlling asshole is across the board for every single group that includes men. You know, it's very funny. I can't speak to groups of women because, you know, I'm a dude, but it might be there too. I don't know, but I've definitely seen it with men.
No, I wanted to circle back to the incel mindset thing you were talking about the whole thing about like that feeling that you were not perfect or whatever. Because like, you know, like I'm a weird furry. Like my niche is like very small, and that was like a big problem with me. It was like most people get to like one of the reasons why I never really did relationships. I was like in Florida, there was only like 6 people like in my particular subgroup, and it was like, you know, it's one of those things where it's like if you're not really compatible with someone, it's just like, you know. And so I've experienced like about the most like narrow possible like group of people that you're compatible with possible. And I've still had like, it has changed my life multiple times. Like a big part of the reason why I have this job is because Fred's like the same type of furry, and that's how we met. Like I've had relationships.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So like if you think that your like forehead being, your philtrum being a millimeter too wide means you are like wildly unfuckable, it's like maybe not everyone's gonna like you, but like you're gonna find like people. Like it used to be like we used to live in like villages. It used to be you'd only know 30 people in your entire life. Like it's okay if not everyone is into you. There's still enough people out there that you'll never run out of people to meet with, even if you have to make some changes to you know deal with that. And instead of throwing your life away, it's just a different one.
And you could also just move on and be like, hey, if people don't want to fuck with me, cool. Like it's helped me so much. The fact that I was the only non-baptized kid in a Catholic school listening to fucking Manson and metal and all that shit. My entire like I was like tempered in that. And so now I don't give a shit what anybody says about my stuff ever. I've had people like tell me to my face that my art sucks and my posts are dumb and like I'm not funny and all of these different things. And like, it's not that I'm like, fuck you. And I'm like, I'm so much over it. It's like, it doesn't even occur to me to ever give a shit what these people say. Like everything I make is I make it because it makes me laugh or I think it looks cool. If they don't like it, I don't give a shit. You know?
Yeah, it's like if you've never had positive attention, the negative attention hits a lot harder because it's like the only thing you ever experienced. It's like once you have people who like the things you do, then other people not liking it doesn't matter as much because it's like it makes you realize it never really mattered in the first place. It's like it's okay if people don't like the thing I do, people will, and that's what's important is just finding those people instead of like changing what it is to try and appeal to something it's not. You know,
you're reaching into the ain't shit show territory of like schizophrenizing how things work, right? Because like there's a switch that flips in people's brains where that negative attention that they receive is the positive attention, right? And
Ben Shapiro.
Yeah, so like for incels, there is a specific type of incel guy that is aware that his philtrum being 1 centimeter longer on the left doesn't mean that he can't be fucked. But like by leaning into it harder and getting more people to like being like, dude, you're just being fucking weird. That's what he wants. You get what I'm saying? And like that's a much harder to describe. But I mean, we talk about it all the time on the pod and in the Discord. And there's like in a larger sense, the reality is that like there's a big business there's a huge business around people hating themselves, and even bigger business on people selling you a cure on how to not hate yourself. Do you know what I'm saying? So like either way, there's a business involved here. And the best, I think, like the best way to think about these things is like a business decision, which is who do you want to help you get out of these horrible feelings? Do you want like, you know, Hitler spammer 99 on Twitter who's telling you your philtrum is too big? Do you want that guy to charge you a $70,000 men's retreat where he beats your ass and leaves you in a cold, right? Like in a cold bucket. Yeah. Right. Or do you just want to like listen to a podcast and with some cozy friends and they're like, hey, don't worry about your weird lip, dude. People are going to suck you off. Who cares, man?
I mean, like, it's funny because like there's to bring it even more full circle is like there's the Michael Moore interview with Marilyn Manson backstage at one of his shows. This was in Bowling for Columbine, right? Where he's just like, well, like, look at the news all day on the news. It's like, be afraid of this, be afraid of that. They're coming to get you. These guys are coming to get you. Be afraid of all of these people. Cut to commercial. If you don't have clean teeth, she's not going to fuck you. If you don't have a nice car, you're not going to be giving. Like, all of these things are designed to keep you afraid. And like people that are afraid are always going to purchase more things, right? Mm-hmm. You know, and it's funny that like I see, like I do the oddities expos all the time, and I do a bunch of other expos, and I see some dudes that are like very like, I need the world to know that I'm masculine. I like, they're super jacked, they're super fucking like all the performative masculinity things. Their shirts are like a skull that says "fuck you," you know, like I'm so enraged all the time.
So they're cool and, like, guys.
Those, so those people will come by my booth and they'll look at all of the stuff that I have, and they will not crack a smile for any of it, and they won't crack a smile for anything at any point in the entire thing, because smiling is fucking gay, dude. Smiling is so fucking gay. All the while, like, the person with like big old furry ears and their big old belly hanging out, and they're covered in like pride flags, and they have like weird skin issues, they're standing around and they're fucking loving everything. They're having so much fun with their friends, and they're actually goddamn happy, where all of these other dudes have convinced themselves that any form of happiness is soft, and you need to be in kill mode all the time.
Fellas, it is.
You see it fucking
fellas,
everywhere.
It is gay to be happy. I'm letting you know that right now. It is. It is in fact. Yeah. It is in fact. If you've ever cracked a smile or laughed or chuckled, another man has made you do that. That's gay, dude. Come on, man.
It's fucking gay, dude.
I'm only just a man of steel.
All right, I think that's a good place to call it. Marcus, one last time, what's your where can we
you can find
you?
Me on at Ainter Show, which is AINTERSHOW at twitter.com. I'm on all social media as Ainter Show. I have a podcast called The Ain't Shit Show. We have a Patreon called go to patreon.com/The Homie Collective. We have all kinds of fun stuff. We upload an episode every single week. It's just kind of like an insane hangout with the most insane people and ridiculous, just internet nerds you've ever met. And yeah, that's it.
All right. Well, Jay, go ahead.
Yeah, and I'm Jay Brandstetter pretty much everywhere. You know, I do this. I have a Discord with a lot of like middle-aged former goons. It's pretty fun there. You know, this was a very fun episode to write. I'm very glad I got to do it.
Well, you can find me and Jay and everybody on the pod at iftipod@gmail.com. We're also at iftipod on Twitter. That's for all of our, suggestions, complaints, everything. Just let us know how you feel. If you have any ideas for anything, just shoot us a message. We'd love to hear from you. And also, you can find me at winslowdomain.com. I'm still taking pre-orders for the card game. I'm doing a ton of other stuff there too. And you can find me on Instagram at calculations, and you can find me on Twitter at. That's going to do it for the I'm from the Internet Steroids Spectacular. I think this is the longest one we've ever done, so this is fucking insane. And I thank you for joining us. This has been a fucking real hoot.
Yeah, real roller coaster.
All right, take care, guys. Thank you. I'm From the Internet is created by Jay Brandstetter and Winslow Domain. Edited by Steve Brown. Music by Steve Isbro.